You guys wanna hear a story? It's a kind of it's a bit of a sad story, tragic, really. You could say.
I mean, aren't all stories tragic in the end?
This one's especially.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then go ahead.
Also, this is not the story I told you guys I had to tell you. I'm just gonna tell you.
Okay, before we launch into this, though, hi, I'm Noah. Welcome to Off the Air. You're about to hear a story from Jackson, and the other guy is Dan. Fire away.
Classic Dan, always being the other guy.
Should have been like a cold open, and then okay. Anyway, my grandfather died, and I inherited some of his clothes. See, my grandfather was a farmer, and he loved getting dressed up every year for the local fair and exhibiting his prized chickens. He's a chicken farmer, if you will, not Bosnian. My grandmother would spend the entire year searching through thrift shops, and she'd find like the neckties with like chickens on them, and like the funny ones, and like cutesy ones, like you find at thrift shops. But it'd been years. I mean, he's been showing chickens since like the 80s, so he's got dozens and dozens of these these neckties. They all got cartoon chickens on them. They're flying around doing other silly chicken stuff like laying eggs. I took note every year, and I always talked to him about it. And after he passed away, he gave them to me in his will along with some other clothes. When my grandmother handed me the bag full of them, I was obviously it was really sad. It was a tragic moment. I was just kind of thinking about what he would do if he was here, like seeing me get these ties from him. Now, why am I telling you the story, you might ask? Because the last time I tried to tell people the story without context, it just seems weird when I'm talking about getting my grandfather's hentai collection.
That was the longest setup. Like, it sounded like you were reading from something halfway through, and I was like,
I was reading from something, yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't remember all the details of the story. It's not my story. It's not my joke.
I was gonna say, I'm not gonna disbelieve it wasn't your story. I was more of a it sounded like you were reading from something, so I'm like, oh god, there's definitely a bit at the end of this. Like, there's some kind of joke, but god damn it, that was such a long build up. I'm so mad. You made me sit through that. That was what, like a full minute and a half of story?
At least a minute and a half of story, yeah.
Honestly, there's nothing better than a joke that just takes forever to build up and then has such a gorgeous letdown line like that. Those are my favorites.
It is from Bad Jokes by Jeff. By the way, it's not really anti-humor. It's just it's a story that it's got like a secret joke. You weren't watching out for the play on words because you really couldn't have been in that situation. And the play on words just hits you at the end full force.
That's fair.
Beautiful, really. My actual favorite joke of all time is like 5 minutes long, so I'm not going to tell it right now, but it's a good one.
I appreciate that.
Oh, okay.
It's another one with like a huge setup, and then it's a play on words, and you're like, fuck you.
I mean, yeah, basically.
Those are my favorite kind of jokes. So I saw that one earlier, and I just felt like I had to tell you guys it. But in reality, I do have an interesting story, and it's kind of this one's actually kind of sad. Not a joke. So, also, before we get too far into this, there's no Jackson's Beer Corner today because Jackson has to go to work tonight. Tonight, you ask? Yes, I have to go to work at 8 p.m. Why? Because South by Southwest is taking place right now.
Jackson's Responsibility Corner.
This is Jackson's Responsibility Corner. I have to go in and work overnight at the restaurant, and I'm really not trying to do that.
I mean,
after drinking a beer. I mean, it wouldn't be that bad or anything.
This is like the at the end of a beer commercial, they're always like, oh, please drink responsibly. This is the drinking responsibly part.
Yeah, this is the one time where I tell you to drink responsibly. And by telling you, I'm just not going
to go fucking wild, my man.
Yeah, I absolutely go wild. But nah, so today I'm drinking some coffee. It's called Taste of San Antonio.
Ooh.
It's like I think it's like almond and vanilla.
Coffee reminds me, a coffee shop opened up right across the street from where I work, but they don't sell coffee. Exciting. They sell bags of coffee. So I couldn't go in and get like a cup, but I can go in and get a fresh ground bag of Ethiopian Sumatran, which I did.
That is very interesting.
I've never heard anyone try that before, but they have a market because they're the only people in town as of now who can import these specialty beans. So, and they roast it all themselves. They grind it all fresh. It's actually really neat.
That does sound pretty cool. But why no coffee in like cup format?
You see, that's a different licensing. So if they were selling coffee, they would it. Exactly, and they're not sure if they will yet. And honestly, I can't blame them either way. Whatever works out best for them.
Selling license. Yeah. Also, sorry if I talked over you. You cut out, so I wasn't sure what was happening.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
For some reason, my internet is a little sketch today.
My internet's been pretty bad.
That always
we switched providers lately.
It has been a long time since we had a sketch internet episode, though.
It's true.
Oh, that was weird. I don't like that.
Well, it's true.
It is.
I don't like that at all.
So yeah, South by Southwest is going to be going on for the next like couple weeks. It's like a 2-week long festival, and spring break's right after it, so it's going to be a lot of work for old Jackson. Although I don't know why people are always like, "Yo, work's going to be crazy over spring break." Like, is it? People come to Austin for spring break?
Okay.
I mean,
I've never heard of someone doing that before.
I
would,
but I also
you know?
have never heard anyone doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I would go just about anywhere for spring break except, money.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
I thought you were like
go to money for spring break.
I
I would also go to money. I'm going to money for spring break this year.
You see, guys, the key
By
to
then I'm going
comedy
work.
is...
Guys, I'm going to level with you right now before Dan finishes a sentence. Dan does not have the key to comedy.
So I actually, I just got done with spring break. My spring break literally, well, by the time this podcast out, it'll be about a week over, but
It'll be exactly a week over, actually.
I mean, technically my spring break doesn't end till Sunday.
Yeah, whatever. The spring break you went on ended on Thursday.
Yeah, the spring break trip. I did a little adventure, you guys. I've mentioned on the podcast before. I travel a little bit now and again to go see my girlfriend, and just gotta say, sketchiest airplane I've ever ridden on.
Ooh, really? What airline?
Like the sheets, the seats were all tattered and torn up.
The sheath.
The seats were all tattered and torn up,
Makes me feel.
and like it was overly rickety, and it was weirdly empty. Like usually when I fly Spirit.
Oh no!
Usually when
I flew Spirit.
I mean, right? When I fly Spirit Airlines, I usually have, it's usually a packed flight, like packed in sardines. But both the flight down and the flight back were creepily empty, like to the point where like I think only half the plane was full, if that. And it just
weird.
very much felt like this was about to be like, for like the whole thing was just going to go down for no reason.
Well, have you guys ever encountered the classic scenario where the plane is overbooked?
I have never actually.
I haven't either, but I've taken plenty of flights.
Yeah, I've always heard of it, but
exactly, everyone makes it seem like it's a very common thing, but I've never experienced such an occurrence.
I wonder if it was a more common thing when, like, in the age of like our elders.
No, I mean like contemporaries have been saying this, like coworkers of mine and stuff. Yeah, they'd be like, oh yeah, they overbooked the flight and tried to make me move. And I was like, really? I've never had that happen.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I always fly the cheapest possible airline.
Same.
That's a possibility.
But I feel like
the
of all
cheapest
people,
airline would have the sketchiest practices.
Exactly. Which I don't know. I've never experienced it. I've actually never, besides maybe my parents or like in that age bracket who have like mentioned it offhandedly. I don't think I know anybody personally who's experienced it.
I also don't fly during peak times usually though.
I mean, I don't fly during peak times, but I flew during what was my spring break. Like,
yeah, but that's no one else's spring break though,
which is weird to me. I don't know what that's about.
Strange.
Like you mentioning, oh yeah, spring break is next week. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was this
past week. What kind of school
week.
do you go to? Is it a private
university?
School?
No, a state university.
Okay.
I mean, I think I've mentioned it. Have I mentioned it on the podcast, Noah?
No, you just said you go to school in Philly.
Yeah, well, I go to a university in Philadelphia. Like it's a like I get federal shit, so like it's a full blown university. I don't know. It's very weird to me.
University though.
What?
But the only reason I would bring that up is because I know when I used to live in Waco, like I mentioned earlier, Baylor is the big school there, and Baylor staggers their spring break by a week.
That makes sense.
Baylor spring break, they do it because it's a religious university, and they're like, we don't want our kids intermingling with worldly savages. And so instead, Baylor kids just all, as an entire university, go to like one city and just completely destroy it and get fucked up. You're like, okay, cool, good job, guys.
Thank goodness they kept it away from the heathens.
Yeah, at least you're keeping it, in the family. But yeah, I don't know. People are talking about like Austin being a spring break destination, and like it's a nice city. Don't get me wrong, but like it's 3 hours away from the coastline. So like,
yeah, exactly. I feel like you go
Island.
Much closer to the coast, or like somewhere with a much bigger profile.
I was gonna say, my mind has always been spring break is like usually a beach event. I've never done a spring break thing.
Oh, same.
But
I mean, to be fair, you went to
off the air spring break.
Off the air spring break.
Guys, we're all going to Portland, Maine.
You know what?
Actually, I would be down.
I'd go to Portland.
All right, cool.
I'd go to Maine. Dude, Maine is the shit.
Portland, Oregon. Oh, I love Maine. I love that whole hemisphere of America, which is not really a good way to use the word hemisphere.
But that region. How's that?
Well, it's kind of like one of those words that like I just use to describe a region. Like I'll be like, that hemisphere. Also, barometer is another word I incorrectly use.
I haven't seen a barometer in a while.
Well, apparently a barometer is specifically an instrument used to measure atmospheric pressure.
Yeah.
But I use barometer as like a synonym for gauge.
Oh, no.
Which is something I didn't invent that. I like picked that up from a friend of mine. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just a barometer for how we're doing today. And people are always like, no, dude, that's not a barometer. I'm like, first of all, we're both like 20-something-year-old people in Texas. Why are you correcting me on the proper like identification of a barometer? Because that's a very strange thing to be mad at me for.
Mm-hmm.
But it does happen surprisingly often. But well, actually, a barometer is only for atmospheric pressure. Like, well, why do you know that? Why are you talking to me about that? Why do you care? Why is that something you're passionate about?
Hey, some people they just don't have a good hobby.
Some people just don't have a great barometer.
Yeah, I don't have a good. I have a pretty good barometer for who's going to get mad at me for saying barometer incorrectly. Don't get me wrong, guys. So
speaking of using the right words correctly, I think it's. Yikes. I think you could use some more books, Jackson. Some more books in your life to learn how to use words properly.
I'm going to tell you guys about a book real quick that I found.
Oh, do please.
Because this is. It's in my book bag. That's why the zipping.
I was gonna say I was partially setting you up for that, partially setting you up for that catchy theme music.
We're actually gonna wait on that because this is gonna be a tale to tell. So I went to the coffee shop the other day, the one I've been going to for a while. It's called Mozart's. If you're ever in Austin, it's fairly nice, a bit pricey, but it's right on the lake. It's fairly pretty. Anyway, I went there and I was just chilling outside. It was 40 degrees, so it was just me outside. It was nice. I was just sitting there. I was writing on this little project thing I'm working on, and there was no one else outside, like I mentioned. But there was a book, or a couple books rather, on his table, a couple of tables away from me, and it also had like a couple coffee cups on it and some cigarette butts. So I figured someone had just like gone to the bathroom, or maybe gone to go grab something from their car. And like 20 minutes passed by, and there's still no one back yet. I stayed down there for a couple hours, and about an hour and a half in, this girl comes down and sits a couple tables behind me. I'm refilling the ink in my pen, and we just have like a little chit chat because she's like, "Oh, what kind of pen is that?" And we start talking. And then I'm like, were you down here earlier? Did you see who's like booking stuff that was? And she's like, I have no idea. So her and I are like, well, I guess we'll take a look. So I walk over and I look at the desk, and it's got this book on it. It's The Last Good Kiss by James Crumley. Never heard of it before. It sounds maybe familiar, but anyway, it's got a post-it note in the front that says, "Take me home." And I'm like, that's weird. Also something that old Jackson is very into, because I'm super into stuff like that. Because, it's like, ooh, books and shared knowledge, and maybe there's going to be a personalized letter inside of here from the author or something. Who knows? So your boy starts thumbing through it. And inside, there's just a whole bunch of, like, handwritten notes. And, I start thinking, that's kind of weird. And they're all from different people. So I'm like, that's strange. And I start reading them. They're all alluding to someone who's dead. So, for example, the first one is, it just says, "Wish I could meet you there for a game of dominoes and a cigarette like we used to. Drew." And I'm like, read that. That seems off. Something's wrong. Something's happened to someone. So I read all the notes, and there's not a lot of information. So I start gathering the names of the people. I'm not going to say the names because obviously I said it like Drew because I don't know who that one is. But like some of them are first and last names. So I start looking into these people, start trying to do like background checks, start trying to do all the different stuff to find out who they are. And I managed to get a hold of one of them on Facebook. And I'm like, "Hey, I found this book and it's got a letter from you in it. Do you know what's up with that? Do you know what's happening?" And he explains to me, like, he gets back, he's like, "Hey, thanks for like reaching out." And he tells me they are all written to their friend named James Ryland Woodruff, and that name is in the book a couple times, who went by the nickname Rye, and he killed himself last week, or like a couple weeks ago by now. I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but when I first got the book, it was like a week old kind of thing. So it was a very, this is a very recent event. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, I found it and I read the notes, and it's very touching to me. I think it's very interesting. I've had a good few personal friends end their own lives or pass too young for medical reasons, but I've lost enough friends to make something like this. It impacts me pretty hard. So reading through it, it's just a very touching story. And the one guy mentions he's gonna write like Rye lives on one of the benches, and sure enough, it's there. And I just kind of figure it's a story worth sharing with people, especially when I have any form of a platform like this is, just to kind of get the word out there about this dude who ended his life. He was like apparently a very like charismatic, funny a very clever guy that they all went to high school with. He was 31. So James Ryland Woodruff. I thought that was neat. You guys have any takes or feelings towards this kind of thing?
It's wild. That's all. Like that's a wild ass story.
That's incredibly out there.
It really is.
It sounds like something from a book that you would like read about, but would never experience.
These kind of things.
Turns out that when he went through the book, this is the story that was in the book.
This is the story of the book.
Right down to the part where he did a little song and then asked us our opinions.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think it's very interesting. And these are the kind of things I'm super into because I'm a very like hopeless romantic type. I'm very much a very like I romanticize things, whether or not it's like literally with love or with events. I'm like, ooh, let's stylize and make things got a little pizzazz to them. And finding a book that's abandoned with a whole bunch of cigarette butts around it that says "Take Me Home," that's very much a Jackson's into this kind of thing. So
yeah, man, that's fucking wild.
Most certainly.
That's awesome.
It is. So I figured I'd share with you guys and with the listeners because what's the point of hearing the story that was left for me to find if I don't share it?
Hey, and there's what's that old thing about you die twice. The first time is when you die, and the second time is when people stop talking about you. You just let this person live a little bit longer.
Always get remembered, but legends never die.
That is not the quote I'm thinking of, but sure, that also works. It definitely is not.
So Rye lives. I don't know. We can start like a movement or something.
Hashtag Rye lives.
You guys want to get on
that's really dark because that.
Well, not really. That's like what he talked about in the book doing.
Still, I don't know. I'm not down to start. Listen, I can't start up on like another movement. Okay, I'm already involved with too many.
You get the boiler, the human
furnace party. I've got furnace party. That's a lot of my time.
All right. Well, I guess if you're that busy with the furnace party, I don't know. I think the thing is, I feel like I've got a responsibility towards it because I'm the one who found it. You know, like it could have been anybody, and I'm kind of glad it was me because after I found it, about 10 minutes later, I was sitting there like the person I found it with, we parted ways, and she was like, she was not interested in it. She was like, oh, that's weird, whatever. I'm like, what
how are you not interested in that at all?
Like, how are you not immediately taken into the story? But like 10 minutes later, these kids come down and they're like, yeah, what up? Blah. They were in like Supreme headbands and they're like talking smack. He's like, yo, my mom just doesn't get, my brother's a little dick. My dad's a bitch. And I'm like, thank God these guys didn't find the book. I'm like, imagine if they'd be like, this is stupid, idiot head. Why you died? But
yeah, I mean,
so I'm glad I found that before they, Mr. and what was it? What's the guy's name? Patty Fresh, Supreme Patty. The guy on Instagram who just like drinks like lemon juice and
I like have no clue what the hell you're talking about.
It's some dumb dude. It's some influencer on Instagram who just does dumb shit.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them.
Thank God. I'm only familiar with them because like someone like brought it to my attention and was like, look at this guy. He pours lemon juice in his eye and then takes a shot of tequila. And I'm like, that sounds stupid. So anyway, my eyes are watering just saying that out loud. Because lemon juice in your eye is a terrible thing to think about getting.
Yo, lemon juice. Yeah, no, I've been there.
Ugh. So yeah, the Last Good Kiss by James Crumley is the book. If you want to check it out, you can do so by going to audibletrial.com/off-the-air. I told you guys it was coming. audibletrial.com/off-the-air. You can get a free trial for 30 days. With that trial, you get one token, good for any book, including James Crumley's The Last Good Kiss. Check it out, give it a read. I haven't yet, actually, and I don't know. I might eventually, but to me, the book itself stands for the notes that surround it.
I mean, it can be for both.
It's true.
Though, then again, what if it's just a terrible book? Like, what if you sit down to finally read it and it turns out to just be an awful book that you hate? So maybe the best idea is to actually just not.
Good call. But I don't know. James Crumley's The Last Good Kiss. Give it a check out if you want to. It's maybe interesting. It's like a mystery kind of thing. I do find it very strange week I've had given that book finding thing.
Yeah, I mean that'll do it.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
That's wild.
Yeah, that was my story. Anybody else got anything crazy going on this week outside of?
I mean, besides
coming back from spring break.
Besides risking life and limb on Spirit Airlines, I mean, not really.
I mean, that's on you.
Oh.
You can't blame Spirit Airlines at this point.
I mean, not that I think Jackson cares at all. And no, I don't know if you got yours in yet, but my PAX badges my PAX East badges came in this week, which I am very hyped for.
I registered, but their website's down, so I don't know what team I'm on.
Oh, I should do that.
There's teams?
Yeah, they have a Tycho, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Team Tycho and Team someone else.
Gabe.
Brahe.
Other, the two main characters of Penny Arcade.
I thought it was the guy who died because he didn't pee.
What?
I'm sorry, what?
Tycho Brahe, he was like an astronomer.
I don't know. You know what?
Who died because of a bladder infection.
Okay.
Whack.
From not peeing when he was at a formal event.
Okay.
It's true.
You know, I want to ask why you know this, but there's not going to be a satisfactory answer at all.
Kidding?
So
Why wouldn't he
I
know
have
this?
good memory retention.
This is like classic Jackson like trivia that most people would be like, well, that's dumb, but Jackson would just know.
Speaking of classic Jackson, no, I had a dream that you were in last night.
Do tell.
Oh God.
And I say classic Jackson because it was back at that church we used to both play at. Play bass for. For whatever reason I was back there, and like they were like, hey man, you got to play bass today, and I was like, how did I get here? Who are you? Why am I here? And then they were like, here, take this, and they handed me an upright fretless bass.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like all acoustic, and they're like, you can't plug it in. I'm like, well, there's nowhere for me to plug it in. They were like, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, why did you give this to me? So I'm like freaking out on stage, and they're like, no, you're doing bad. And then they like take the bass from me, and they give me a coconut shell, and it's like, and then the woman who was in charge of the I guess the production, she had like this log, and she was beating it with a wooden spoon, and I had like the coconut shell, and I had to just like ruffle it to make sounds, and they kept yelling at me. And then you were there, and you started playing like the fretless upright bass, and you're like, Jackson, you gotta like step it up. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? It was a very weird dream. But when they handed me the coconut, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be like that.
Just plug it in. Oh, I can't plug it in. Well, what are you doing?
Yeah, they handed me this thing that had like, it was all acoustic, and they're like, why don't you just plug it in? And I was like, I can't. It was a very strange dream.
That's amazing.
But she was like hitting this like log with a spoon, and then like yelling at me because I wasn't like making enough sounds with the coconut shell. It was just a very strange dream.
It's a really weird dream. I'll give you that. Hot dang.
That's great, honestly. Do you guys dream a lot? I think, have we talked about this on the podcast at one point?
Do androids dream?
I feel like we have, but I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think we have, actually.
I think we might have. I don't know. I probably do.
Okay, so I've always hated that, like, oh, you dream every night, but you don't remember it, because to me, like, if you dream every night but don't remember it, it doesn't mean anything. It's good for your mental well-being. It just doesn't mean anything to you. Yeah, it literally means nothing. I
got smooth brains, so I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Well, because I don't really dream. Like, I now and again I'll have one, but like very, very rarely. Like, I had one like earlier this week, and I can't remember any of it. But prior to that, I don't think I've had one in literally months.
See, all my dreams anymore, I don't remember any of my good dreams. All I remember are these cracked out fever dreams.
Ooh,
and the issue I have with these dreams is they are a continuous storyline in the same universe.
Yes,
that I keep returning to.
I used to have one of those,
and I don't like it. It's incredibly uncomfortable. But you know what you gonna do?
Dream less, or learn how to lucid dream.
I have tried to lucid dream. I haven't been able to do that in a while.
I don't know. I wish that like
it requires one of the things that I'm immediate or so close to being awake that half the time I end up just waking up.
That's fair. I don't know. I feel like dreams, when I rarely do have them, just end up leaving. Like I don't like having them, because they like end up just, I'm more tired, and like frankly they're not like they're great or anything. I don't know. I was thinking about, because I have a thing for one of my classes where I'm supposed to keep a dream journal, and I'm like, I definitely have been doing that.
Well, if anyone ruins your dream journal, send them to the principal's office and have them expelled.
Right? It's a psych class, which is why, but still.
I can't believe they're making you keep a dream journal.
Dude, me neither. I was like, okay, sure,
I met
boss.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Okay, sure, boss.
George Lopez is my teacher, and he's electrical.
I mean, George Lopez is just electrical in general, I think.
It's true.
Like, that's just who, like, it's like that, it's like the Shaggy thing where, like, oh, he wasn't actually playing a role. He was just, like, taking off his costume. And that's just who he is on the inside.
Matthew Lillard?
Mm-hmm. A weird face monster in a fucking electrical suit thing.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's my hot take. I don't know. I was hoping that topic would go somewhere, and it didn't. So
yeah, I didn't really know what to say. I was like,
sorry,
Matthew Lillard's pretty good.
I don't know.
What else is he in? I feel like he's in other stuff. He was in Scream.
Really?
Yeah, he was like the one dude.
Oh, he was.
That one guy.
Yeah, he was like the guy who was getting like manipulated. not like manipulated, but he was like the guy who was like kind of mentally unstable and
I was gonna say, I wouldn't say he was being manipulated. He just didn't realize he was about to get betrayed.
Yeah, he was the one. He was very much taken advantage of.
Yeah,
it's his character trait. Mine too. Name 2 things about you. I'm manipulated by people to kill teenagers. Scream is a very good movie, by the way.
Scream is such a good movie.
Very fun.
Scream 2, also pretty good. Scream 3,
I have not seen any
really bad.
Oh.
Scream 4, okay. Scream 4 landed squarely in time for, like, what's really funny
there was a 4th
is the meta of Scream works for Scream 3 being bad because it's a played out franchise at that point. And then when it comes back, it gets like rebooted. Everything looks cleaner and crisper and everything. And there's like a new angle. Shit. And it still works for the meta. And it's
Scream
fantastic.
Being bad actually the best Scream possible?
You know what? It could be.
Sounds pretty woke. I actually haven't seen anything past the first Scream, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
because it's kind of like a turn on the genre, right? That's like its whole thing. It's like a little bit more like ooh, kind of like one of my favorite movies, Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods is such a good movie.
When I first watched it, though, I thought it was dumb. Really? I think I was like 12 or 13, and I was like, this is dumb. Like, why are we not watching Office people do stuff? And then I watched it again when I was like 17. And I was like, I was stupid. Mm-hmm. Actually, I might have been older than 17. I think the first time I watched it, I was probably 13 or 14 because I was with the brothers that we used to hang out with all the time. Yeah. I was with them, and we were just kind of like, don't really, We all just kind of like shrugged it off like it wasn't very good. Because we were also watching it with people, so there was a group of us, and none of us had seen it, and we were all like, I don't know. Seems a bit like we don't get it, basically. And then I watched it when I was like 19 with my roommates when I lived in Waco, and he was like, yo, this movie's really good. And I was like, is it? I don't really remember it. And I watched it, it's like, yeah, this movie's really good.
See, it's one of those things where I feel like looking at, if it was just with the brothers, I would get like, it would confuse me that they wouldn't like it, because I feel like, Not Marine, that movie is like the kind of movie he would watch and enjoy. But at the same time,
too young.
Well, at the same time, I can see him not liking it because it's either not goofy enough or not serious enough, which is absurd because that movie is so goofy. I think it was that it wasn't. I think we all were just like, this isn't goofy or serious enough. I think because we were young, so it's kind of like this isn't funny, but it's goofy. Mm-hmm. And you're like, no, if it's trying to make fun of something, it should be funny. Yeah. So that's kind of, I think, where like the problem came in. But I like it now. Mm-hmm. Dan, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend you checking it out. I think you'd like it.
I was going to say, I haven't.
I know you have. Okay. Remember when I tried to make you watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil? And you were like, no. And I'm like, oh, but Dan is a good movie. And you're like, but my girlfriend doesn't like meta movies. So we stopped.
No, I literally don't remember this at all.
I watched. Did I talk to you guys about watching Annihilation?
You haven't, but I've heard
I just watched it very recently.
I've heard so many good things about Annihilation.
It's on Amazon Prime now, so give it a check. It's pretty good. I watched it. Natalie Portman, first of all, is my number one celebrity crush and has been for years.
I do love Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman could skin me alive in front of everyone I've ever met. And I love Natalie Portman. Anyway, she's very good in the movie. It's a very good movie. It's very fun. And one thing I think it does really well and doesn't stress is it's a female-led movie. Like, the entire team that goes in are all women, and they don't make a big point out of it. They're not like, hey, look, guys, women representation. They're instead just like, hey, look, guys, Natalie Portman's going to go in the thing. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, cool. Because, like, to me, you don't need to draw my eyes toward any form of representation. I'm going to see it, and I'm going to like and understand it, but like, you don't need to draw my eyes to it, because I'm not a 6-year-old. I get things.
Right. Right.
But yeah, it's a good movie. It's really fun. There's like a bear in it. I love bears.
The bears are great.
It's not like Paddington, my friend Paddington. It's not a nice bear.
Unfortunate, but
kind of like a real bear, where it's like not actually your friend, like Paddington.
I mean, you need a rude bear every now and then. Bear.
What else is there? An alligator in there. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of like alien action going on. Kinda. I don't know. It's like a eldritch horror type of thing where it's like, no one understands what's happening in the void. Natalie Portman, go in there. I don't know. See what happens. Yeah, I mean, that's like the eldritch, like H.P. Lovecraft kind of thing.
I think I heard it described as cosmic horror recently.
That sounds right.
Actually, specifically on Nina's server, someone shared a video about it saying why cosmic horror is incredibly hard to write for, and it was a video essay on Annihilation, which I have not watched because since it
is on Amazon Prime.
But I don't have Amazon Prime.
Gotcha.
But what I do have is an Amazon gift card that I won. So I'm
Respect.
like, yes, I will watch this movie for free.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. They just added it to Prime recently. That might be why someone made a video essay on it, because it's accessible. I don't know. It's 2018 movie too.
Yeah, it's rather recent. It was mid-end 2018, if memory serves.
I thought it was earlier on. I don't really remember when it came out. I felt like it came out forever ago, and then it came out this year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it was more beginning mid 2018. I don't know.
I didn't look it up.
I missed it in theaters. That's all I know for sure.
I kind of wanted to see it in theaters just because I love Natalie Portman, and then I was looking through. I was doing the classic switcheroo where I like go through like all the streaming services I have access to, and then was like, and then I like finally settled on Amazon Prime. Which, no offense, it's a good service, but like when I usually go there, it's because I'm trying to watch a movie. It came out February 23rd, 2018, so it's over a year old. Yeah,
I'm out here being dumb.
But yeah, usually whenever I go to Amazon Prime, it's to watch a movie. Because they have, in my opinion, out of all the streaming services, the best movie selection.
My issue with them is they don't always have the movies for free. You
That's
sometimes
true.
still
That's
have to
annoying.
rent them.
Yeah, you like Google, you like look at a movie and it'll be like, it's on Amazon Prime Video. And you're like, cool. And it's like, not for Prime members. It costs $6. And you're like, you should not have showed me that. I'm not paying $6 for this movie.
And like, it might be worth it, but it's still just a rental.
Might be. But I'm not paying $6 for a movie when I have the service that you could show me other movies on. It's a good service though. They've got a lot of good movies actually. Most movies I've watched recently, I've watched on Amazon Prime.
They have a lot of TV shows on there too, don't they?
Yeah. And funnily enough, the reason I watched Annihilation was only halfway because of Natalie Portman. Because the last movie I watched before that was the one that was Life Itself with Oscar Isaac, and Oscar Isaac's in Annihilation too. So I was like, oh, cool. This is two actors I very much like. I'll watch this movie. I think that's why it was suggested to me. It's like, you watch movies with these people. Watch another one. And I was like, cool. Thanks, Amazon. You know, I'm not going to start a Steam update right now, so I'm going to close that while you're doing it. In other news, you guys like esports at all?
I do, actually.
I've been watching a lot of competitive League of Legends lately. That's just been my thing. It's been a lot of fun, and because like today I work at 8 p.m., so I had to be I forced myself to be up super late last night. So I ended up watching a whole bunch of games like in the Korean series, which normally I wouldn't watch, but I was like, I'm up and they're live. Might as well watch the Korean.
Yeah. Hey, why not?
I've been watching the European ones the most though, but I like esports. It's a good time for sports for me because it's like League of Legends is in full season and hockey is in full season, so it's just kind of like good time.
Yeah.
A lot of good sports going on.
No, for sure.
Not a big basketball guy, but March Madness is going on right now, and playoffs are coming up soon for the NBA.
I'm a little bummed out because my coworker and I did not end up doing a March Madness bracket. And even though I do not follow college ball at all, I've always very much enjoyed doing March Madness. Oh, yeah,
I do too. It's funny because it's just like, it's a bracket, it's a tournament series.
Yeah.
Which is the same reason I enjoy fighting game tournaments, because they work through a bracket and they work through a bracket really fast. Because like stuff like League of Legends and even like the NBA and whatnot, it's like you go through a bracket, but you go through a bracket like very slowly over the course of a couple of weeks. Whereas like a fighting game tournament, they're like, all right, top 64, we got 3 hours, go. And you can just watch the bracket just get whittled down, and that to me is a lot of fun.
My problem with the fighting game esports is the same problem I have that I definitely have mentioned on the podcast before with I hate the community surrounding it.
Really? Like the FGC?
And not even so much, just specifically the ones who are like out in the world, like, but do you see like this game? And I'm like, dude, I don't care. And then they're them trying to explain to me how their fighting game of choice is superior in some way or shape or form.
Melee, it's okay.
Melee is part of it, but I've also had it. I know lately it's been weirdly. I think it's Street Fighter. I could be wrong. It looks like, let me put it this way. It looks like Street Fighter from a distance, so I can't guarantee.
Tekken?
Might be Tekken.
Tekken looks very different than Street Fighter.
Dude, as far as fighting games aren't really my thing. The only fighting game I really got into besides Smash was Injustice, because Injustice is amazing, or at least like the lore around it is. And like, I don't know.
MKX.
It just
sorry.
No, go ahead.
MKX looks a lot like Injustice does.
I
visually.
did see that.
And I'll be honest, I don't mind that because I really have not been the biggest fan of like Mortal Kombat's style at times, because it just looks a little flat.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I'm not a NetherRealm Studios guy, which is the company that makes them. They're okay, but to me, like I like Tekken a lot. Tekken's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like Tekken. I've only played a few times, but I really enjoyed it.
Tekken's a good time. I like Street Fighter well enough. I don't really have any experience on Street Fighter, but I like it. And then my favorite fighting game is still Guilty Gear. I love Guilty Gear. And they cut that from Evo this year, actually, which is very sad for me. Guilty Gear and Melee both got cut from Evo, and those are like the 2 games I liked watching at Evo, but that's okay. So it's all like the politics of like fight. The FGC right now is basically if you paid Evo enough money, they put your game in there. So things like Melee that aren't sponsored by the actual company don't get, because I think Nintendo doesn't pay for Melee tournaments.
Well,
so
also,
like they're not getting an Evo.
Yeah.
Same with like Guilty Gear. Like Arc Systems Works is the one who made that, but they're like, we don't got the money to post up for 2 games, so we're just gonna put Dragon Ball FighterZ in there, even though it's a objectively worse game. But whatever.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing.
It is, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, you got to go by numbers. And so for Arc, it makes sense because they're like, well, Dragon Ball FighterZ gets way more viewers than Guilty Gear because people like to jerk off to whatever Dragon Ball thing comes out. So we'll put that in Evo, which makes sense because it gives you better money. But I think Guilty Gear it's more like they're their child. They're like, sorry, my son, but we must put your talented cousin in instead.
I mean, where's the lie though?
Yeah.
I just really enjoy that as a comparison.
So
thank you.
Do you guys mind if I bring us down in a big way?
Oh, sure.
So this has been something that's been weighing on my mind a lot recently.
Yeah, man.
And I should clarify, there's no like fun punchline, which usually would be where something from me would be like coming from this angle, like, oh, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and it's like, haha, gotcha. No,
So
this
not a joke story about hentai.
No, this is actually a real story that's actually like, well, not a story, but like a situation that's just been bugging me a lot recently, and I just kind of would like to get your opinions. You may have seen my not hot take tweet recently about guys that make jokes about, oh, women, the old ball and chain, happy wife, happy life, you know how it is with them women, yada yada yada.
They'd be the worst.
I hate people that talk like that, and unfortunately I work with a guy like that right now, and it makes me very unhappy because the other person who I know who has made jokes like that excessively is a friend of mine who recently got divorced because he turned out to be just exactly the person I thought he might end up being, growing up.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like if you make a like one of those like couple counseling things they'll teach you right away is like if you are with someone and you do the thing where you like constantly make a joke like, hey, like screw you, like it's fine as long as you have like set terms for it. But like if you're just doing it casually all the time and you're like, it's ironic, eventually it's still like you're still doing it and you're still saying those things, and even if they're always jokes, there's like a level on which one day they might not be, and when you're actually angry, the way you express that will be like misinterpreted, and then after that point it just becomes like an awkward, like a broken thing that you can't do what you used to do, so you don't know where to go, and you can't, it's just not good. It's super unhealthy to have a relationship in which you casually remark negative things at each other.
Exactly.
Ironic shit posting is still shit posting.
Exactly.
Now, something my parents have always said.
Relationships.
Something my parents have always said is, my mom, in housing this friend of mine for the last month while he tried to get his life together and didn't realize anything was his fault. We've been talking a lot about stuff like this. And one of the things she said is, no matter whatever she and my dad argued about, there was never name calling. That was like a hard and fast rule that they never broke, was that they never called each other names. And, I never really thought about that until she said that. But it's like one of those things like, if you're arguing and you call someone an idiot, you mean that in that moment, you mean that sincerely. And whether or not you mean that, it doesn't really matter, because in that moment you did. And as you go down, that's just going to be something that's going to weigh on your partner's mind more and more, like, well, they called me an idiot, maybe that's how they think of me, yada yada yada. And it's not going to make the situation better. It just makes you feel good in the moment, being like, yeah, I got them, I called them an idiot, and with that, then flash forward from my friend and his idiotically ruined relationship to now, with it being International Women's Day at the time of recording here, and today and yesterday, being in a little town with little people,
big world,
they unsurprisingly are not fans of International Women's Day because, but if we made an International Men's Day, where's International Men's Day? The uproar that there would be. Or my personal favorite, they make an International Women's Day and they make, Black History Month, but if I just wanted to have a Go Whites Day, that would be racist, but that's just the world we live in, I suppose. And I'm just like...
You consider the fact that if you want to have a Go Whites Day, you just probably are racist?
I don't know how people can miss the point so heavily.
Like, imagine just sitting there thinking like, man, if I had white pride, I'd be racist.
No, you joke, but the number of times I literally have heard that this last week, it's amazing. and not in a good way, not cool amazing, bad amazing. Like the number of people who have sincerely said like stuff like that, I just don't understand.
I mean, I do. I get it only because like my family definitely said things exactly like that growing up, and like it's very much it comes from a place of literally not understanding the point. Like genuinely, that's what it does. I honestly don't think it comes down to a like racist thing. I think it literally comes from people who do not understand why these dates and months exist. Like they don't.
It's like a lack of understanding towards privilege.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I mean,
and like,
and they would actively be like, no, I don't get white. There's no such thing as white privilege. Like my life's hard sometimes.
That's something a friend of mine used to say all the time is I'm white, but I'm not privileged. I don't like when people say white privilege. And then it wasn't until a friend of theirs.
I used to for a while, but I maintain that like even if I'm not the classic like fucking check your white privilege shitlord, I definitely like I've come to realize over the years that no shit, Sherlock, you're privileged as fuck even if you come from like a lower class household and all these other things just by the color of your skin. There is a privilege that comes with that. Like even if it doesn't matter what my situation is, like that always will be a part of it.
And see, that's the thing. Like my friend, they are not a racist person. So the way they always took it is like they do not. Huh?
I said probably.
No, I can speak with a great degree of certainty that this person is not a racist. But what they did is, they always have like, they treat everyone equally. They don't like the idea of white privilege because they don't judge people in that way. And it wasn't until a friend of theirs shared a video that was, one of those like cheesy Facebook explaining white privilege things where like got a bunch of people line them up in a line. And then they're like, all right, first one to the finish line wins $200. But if you came from a single parent household, you have to take a step backward. And, and it kept like doing stuff like that. And it's like, this is the gist of how like white privilege works, stuff like this. Like you don't think that you're ahead and maybe you're not ahead, but it's because other people are more behind, that type of thing. And I don't know.
Yeah,
this is
the
just
irony of a bunch of white guys explaining white privilege is never lost on me. It's just funny.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just funny.
This is just something that's been weighing pretty heavy on my head a lot recently. I just kind of want to talk about it a little bit because
I get it. It's it makes sense because like I talk to a lot of people who be like, I work with a lot of, you could say, uneducated people, I guess. They're nice people, but like a lot of the people are young and like they're kind of dumb and they're just like, hey, like I don't think like I don't think there's a wage gap. I don't think women are treated less in the workplace. I don't think that racism is real. But like literally, like my dad was born in 1956. At that time, segregation was still in full effect. That means I am one generation removed from segregation.
Exactly.
And like, of course, I don't think it affected my dad too heavily because he didn't really grow up in anywhere where like the Jim Crow laws were in effect. It was very much like a rural Pennsylvania. Like, you had 12 people in your town, so everyone got along because you had 12 people in your town.
Exactly.
But, it's still like he lived and grew up in the era where segregation was still very much real. And people don't get that. People are like, I don't have to feel bad because, 200 years ago, people were slaves. Like, sure.
Yeah.
100 years ago, but sure. And then less than 50 years ago, people weren't allowed to go to the same school.
I think, that's the part that people keep forgetting about. Is like people
Martin
like
Luther
bring
King
up the slave
did not
thing.
die. He died. Martin Luther King died 50 years ago.
Yeah.
In 68. He was shot in 68. And that was the end of like civil rights, like the official civil rights, and became more of like the, it started being like the Black Panther, Black Power movement. That was 50 years ago. Like my dad is in his 60s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you have friends who are black and their parents are as old as my parents, which is not unreasonable, their parents very much grew up in an era where, segregation was still in full effect. So, so when people say it's like, it was all in the past, it really wasn't.
So when you have like people my age and your age talking about how I don't see why I should have to pay for slavery when slavery was so long ago, it's like, well, you know what? Maybe you're looking at the wrong part of the image here. Yeah, slavery was a long time ago, but like bigotry is not that long ago. In fact, I dare say it is still around right now. I don't want to presume.
Are you trying to tell me racism still exists?
I mean, I thought
the Penguins of Madagascar ended that.
The Penguins did do everything they possibly could to end it, but unfortunately,
they couldn't save Michelle.
They couldn't save Michelle.
God damn it.
There
we go. We brought it around to the punchline.
There it was. We did it, Reddit. I don't know, man. I feel like it's definitely one of those things that like people can't understand until they experience it, and people don't care enough to go and try and experience it because then it's real, and then it's on, and then it's one of those things where like you can't do nothing about, you can't ignore it if you have been confronted with it, right?
Yeah, it's also not fun to experience.
No,
being segregated or being
the bad guy.
Poorly. Yeah, no one wants to be the butt of a joke.
No,
but it's very easy to make jokes when you've never been the butt of them.
Well, and the other thing is like you know what we call people who are never the butts of jokes and are making fun of everybody else? Call them assholes. Like it's also, I feel like it's also part of the thing where people are like, well, why, those the thing I still hear every now and again is like, oh, those old Disney cartoons, and they're like, yeah, but yeah, they were a little messed up, but like they were funny, so it was okay. And I'm like, well, not really, because at the end of the day, they were only funny. They were only making fun of like specific groups. Like if they were truly making fun of everybody, that might be a different story. I might be like, okay,
or making fun of people for an individual reason.
Exactly. Instead of like wildly offensive caricatures. Exactly.
Because if you're just like, these people bad, that's not really funny. That's just kind of
makes you an asshole.
Target at somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I don't like that one.
It reminds me
like
of when
making fun of people for. Like, boy, you look like Ernie Keebler's dumb cousin.
I like making fun of I like making fun of furries, so I'll keep that on the table.
I'm actually that's unacceptable because they are an oppressed people group.
They are. You're right. Like gamers.
Not as much as gamers.
Not as much as gamers. Gamers, please rise up.
There's a chair now. Did you guys see that? The chair that you can get.
Yes.
This company, that's so good.
Dan, in fact, I tagged you in that image.
I couldn't remember if you were the one that sent it. Dude, there's a lot of people who send me a lot of shit. I don't know if you're aware.
There's a gamer chair in my life.
Mm-hmm. It's it was a Hard Times article. If anyone's not familiar with the Hard Times, they're like The Onion, but generally they're like music related. But this one is a new adjustable gaming chair lets gamers rise up without having to stand.
Thank God, dude.
We firmly believe that gamers are discriminated against, and we want to give them their first privilege, the ability to rise up without being beaten down by their own two legs.
Thank God. Someone gets it.
So good.
Someone gets what it's like to be a real gamer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I hate that bit, but
I love it. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Things are constantly happening. Noah, you know what to do.
Oh, I know what to do.
Put her up there.
No, it just has a like specific like thing ready to go in whatever Premiere, ready to just throw it up there at a moment's notice.
Well, I guess it's time to put the Miley Cyrus Eminem on the screen.
Oh, here we go. Why is Noah Eeyore in this scenario?
Because you think he's happy to do this?
How do you think I feel putting that Miley Cyrus meme up for the 5th week in a row?
Listen. If it would stop being funny, we wouldn't have to keep putting it up.
Honestly, I'm going to tell you something. I don't think it's a meme. I think it's a lifestyle. But
honestly, at this point, it really is.
God.
The point is the society we live in.
The point is, I think that people are too willing to just be in their own little bubbles and not look at the world outside. And I am not gonna be like, oh, I'm better than them, because I definitely have done that in the past and definitely do it in some ways now. Like, we all are guilty of it, but actively trying to work against it is important.
This actually reminds me of something, a funny way to wrap it up.
Okay.
I remember a long time ago, back when I was like, age 13 to like 15. This isn't good, but I really enjoyed like black people jokes, because
when I was like a young idiot, stupid, ignorant kid, I did too.
Yeah, I mean, I
got better, but
I think I would hazard a guess that most white kids who didn't grow up with black friends thought black people jokes were hilarious.
Oh yeah, 100%. Hot steamy take.
And I remember a friend of mine saying, "Well, it's fine to tell them because there's just no jokes about white people." And I remember being doubtful of that. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, oh, well, my friend of mine, he's got a black friend. He just loves black jokes, blah, 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 blah.
Damn, really?
And
I guess that's the council. They've spoken.
And he was like, and my friend one day is like, hey, tell me some jokes that you have about white people. And he wouldn't tell him. And he's like, come on, I won't be offended. I just want to hear him. And he just wouldn't tell him. So, that must mean that there's no jokes about white people. And it's like, but that's the thing. Like, jokes about white people are all like, incest, you slept with your cousin, you freaking Alabama.
Mayonnaise is spicy.
And hot take, not all white people are like that.
Are you sure?
What?
Which is
have you ever seen like the memes where it's like someone would be like, white people think mayonnaise is spicy, haha, and they're like, all right, well, what if I called you the N-word? You wouldn't, and they're like, whoa.
Exactly. No, exactly.
So true.
It's like, it reminds me of the people that call young people snowflakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, are you so fragile? Are you so fragile that you can't take a joke?
Dude,
and I do believe that, like, unironically, not for the meme, I do believe people are a little too sensitive about some things. However,
I also do believe white people think mayonnaise is spicy.
Exactly. I mean, have you tried mayonnaise?
I had some the other day eating these potatoes at the restaurant I work at. They're just like home fries. They're just
like
cooked potatoes.
Well, I think some people need
to
chill out about some things.
Salt, pepper, onions on them. And she was like, ooh, these are spicy. What's in them? I'm like, black pepper. And she's like,
I see, of course.
Like,
the spiciest of all spices.
Racist jokes are not the thing.
Like, black pepper, something else. I'm like, honey, like, there is nothing I could get you that you will not find spicy if you think black pepper in potatoes is too spicy.
You're not wrong.
She ended up getting broccoli with none of the seasoning on it. Wait. So she just got like plain steamed broccoli, and I was like, okay.
See, I thought this bit you were doing was a joke, but this is actually
no, this is a legitimate story. I'm not like that's why I like the white people think mayonnaise is spicy.
Ooh, hot dang.
There's probably one out there.
I mean, yeah.
People be like that. Like, just eat spicy food. You're not gonna die.
Are you sure? I've eaten some spicy food and felt like I'm gonna die.
Did you die?
I did. I did actually die.
Because of the spicy food?
I mean, it wasn't. It was because of the steady oppression of my people.
The gamers.
Yeah.
Gamers, please rise up. for this man's sake, if nothing else.
Please,
another fallen brother.
Listen, I've been through a lot, you guys. Listen,
gamers, get up off that floor.
They are making games that only have female protagonists now. I can't have that.
Oh my god.
Hey guys.
Who would next? Dare? Hey, welcome back, bud. I was trying to kill time and not reveal the fact that you had died.
Oh, I didn't even know Noah was gone. I just started talking about gamers.
I saw it pop up on my origin that Noah disconnected.
No, my internet just took a gigantic dump, and I don't know what happened. But it's fine.
So I think that means it's time to wrap up.
Wait, no, are you still recording?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Oh, just making sure, because you can record offline, so it shouldn't be new. All right, well, Noah's internet's dead.
So is this podcast.
He's, I think, currently on the Discord through his phone.
I am indeed.
So let's lead us out here. My name is Jackson. You can find me at Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram at Jacksonium with 2 M's. It's where I'm at. I be out there. You can see jokes like the hentai joke, which I posted on my Tumblr earlier today. And yeah, if you read enough through my Tumblr, you'll understand exactly why I am the way I am. So do that. Dan, take it away.
I'm Dan. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/borntherule. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/borntherule57. And that's pretty much everywhere, except for if you're trying to follow me like on a professional level, and that there's a whole bunch of shit you can find on that. But I'm not going to give that to you here because none of y'all are interested in my professional work. Not a single person. I don't know why I put on that accent for that whole thing, but it's fine.
I don't know why either. It actually sounds like you were making fun of specific somebody, and I want to know who
definitely
it
was not. Definitely was not. No, it literally wasn't anybody. Anyway, Noah, where can they find you? And more importantly, where can they find the rest of the podcast stuff?
Well, you can find me on most relevant social media sites as Bubbadabad, Bubbadabad. I stream on Twitch, I talk on Twitter, and that's about it, I guess. I posted on Instagram recently. I posted a picture of a haircut I did. Cut a guy's hair off.
Yo.
It was like 14 or 18 inches long, and I gave him a really short fade. So that was neat.
I remembered why I don't post on Instagram anymore. It's literally just because my phone camera is busted to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't.
That's a good reason.
And it makes me so mad because I'm trying, I got to keep that social media game real strong, but can't post on Instagram anymore. So
yeah,
that's
okay.
Great.
But just in case you do want to see the podcast in more places, you can follow us on Facebook.com/OTA podcast, Twitter.com/TheOffTheAir. And if you'd like to, contribute to us monetarily, you can go to Patreon.com/OffTheAir. Your donations will pay for web hosting and eventually some extra bonus episodes. We have some in the works that just haven't been uploaded yet. But, that's there. Also, please, if you can't contribute monetarily, but you still want to help out, a big way to do that is tell your friends. Obviously, literally just tell anyone about us, and we'll greatly be appreciative of that. I just realized maybe I disconnected on the call here.
No, you came back in on your computer. You're fine. You're here.
Neat. Okay. I was panicking for a second there.
You're fine.
But yeah, a big way that you can help us out is tell your friends, but also if you want to help us play that iTunes algorithm and get Apple to leverage for us, hit us up with a quick review. If you give us a review, it will be read live on air by yours truly, or by someone else if they happen to look up the reviews that day. We don't have any more new ones right now. I know this because I checked. But hey, shoot us that review, tell your friends, retweet us, all that fun stuff. A gigantic thank you to everyone who's been listening to us for the past closing in on a year now. This is episode 31.
We're getting there, slowly but surely.
Yeah, once we hit July, we'll be at the 1 year point, which I, for one, am very excited about.
Fucking wild.
Jackson had to leave early, unfortunately, so he's not able to be here for the very closing with us, but that's okay.
I mean, and nothing of value was really lost,
I mean, as he was saying, he does have to get to work, which is incredibly understandable.
Who works in this day and age? Listen, we're millennials.
Oh, shit.
We just eat our avocado toast.
Oh, I hate that so much. Someday. We'll talk about this someday. We'll talk about it someday. Not now.
Someday.
But someday.
Not today, but someday. Oh boy. That's some good bait. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Fuck. I'm so sorry.